Hi everyone, this is Madhav, and I quickly want to talk about a few experiments that I did this week to train authenticity. So I'll do my best to keep this short. The first thing was that when I thought about authenticity, I thought a really great way to have authenticity is to be curious. Because if I'm curious about something and I just do it, then I'm doing it because of me. I'm not thinking what will others think. I'm not thinking is this prestigious. So what I'm going to try to do is try and figure out what are other people also curious about. That way, let's say I'm meeting someone for the first time. If I can ask them a question like, oh, what would you make a presentation on? Then I can get to know the real self that they are. Next, when it came to again doing things out of curiosity for my own goals, I started reading a book that I hadn't heard many people reading about in literature, and I thought, hey, I'll enjoy it. I'm curious about this. But weirdly enough, when I was reading it, I felt slightly odd. I thought, I haven't seen many people actually doing this, and it felt kind of unsettling, which made me think, it's weird that in some areas of life I'm perfectly fine doing things that no one else is, and in other areas, like reading books, maybe I'm not as fine. So I want to reflect on that. Where am I uncomfortable making decisions that others aren't making? Next, I think vulnerability is a huge part of authenticity, so I wanted to write this article in a very vulnerable way. However, when I was writing about a sad experience that I'd had losing a close friend, I found that it was actually a lot easier for me because I didn't plan. I just put on a timer and I started writing. And I didn't edit, I didn't do anything, I took care of all that the next day. But I found that the spontaneity was really a key, crucial factor for letting me be vulnerable without, thinking and overthinking things. So, one actionable I want to do is repeat that. Write a letter for someone without stopping to pause or think, just do it authentically. Last actionable, I noticed that in all of these new contexts, new book, new article, I was fine being authentic, but when it came to everyday authenticity, say with relationships I'd had for a long time, I wasn't really being vulnerable. I wasn't really being authentic. And maybe I'd just gotten used to the people being around me. And I don't think that's good. I don't think it's good to just initiate authenticity. I think it's also important to maintain authenticity. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to thank relationships I've had for a long time for, being part of my life and being vulnerable with them. Let's see how these experiments went. So the first experiment, writing a letter without stopping for delays. Well, the good part was it made me be authentic. The bad part was I didn't like the authentic me. The authentic me was just focusing all on me, 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 and me. And I didn't like that. So what I'm going to do is a follow-up actionable, which is I'm going to write a letter to someone that is all about them. And I think in both cases, these are useful experiments to try. Either write a letter all about someone else or just, spontaneously write a letter without inhibition. Another thing, with the question about, hey, what are you curious about? What would you record a presentation on? I found that people focus too much on the presentation aspect. What would other people enjoy? So I wasn't able to find out what they were curious about. So as a follow-up actionable, I'm going to ask people directly, what are you curious about? And maybe that's a question you also want to ask someone. And I think it still might help get at authenticity. So we'll see next week. Next, when it came to thanking people that I'm close to, I noticed a bunch of people didn't have a reaction. Maybe they were just used to me being part of their lives. And I almost felt like I was expecting something. I was expecting a reaction, but I didn't get one. I wasn't satisfied. I think that's bad. So I'd like to thank someone in detail next week without thinking, okay, I want to hear back from them. I'm just going to give with the intention of giving. Last thing, just to skip forward, I think that a lot of my fears about not being authentic, they were from what others would think. So I want to do an actionable next week to look slightly ridiculous, and that's what I'll leave it off at.